What's up, everybody? Brothers, sisters, psychonauts, and seekers of truth. It is Ananka, and welcome to my bazaar. Today, I have a 2C-B/3 MEO PCE trip report for you. The title of this trip report is Connecting with the Ancients, and was submitted to Erowid in 2024 by the user Sally Queens. With all that being said, let our story begin. Yesterday, I decided to take the first proper plunge into combining dissociatives with psychedelics. I've combined OPCE with 5-MeO MIPT twice, but I don't think the Moxie had enough influence to call it a proper exploration of this space. I will try my best to use timestamps, but all of this is coming from memory the next day, so it might not be the most accurate. The doses here are what works for me personally. 15 milligrams of 3-MeO PCE is somewhat weak and boring on its own, maybe a medium dose, because my tolerance to dissos is pretty high. I also seem to not be very sensitive to oral 2C-B, but maybe it's just the food in my stomach inhibiting the absorption every time. 33 milligrams gives me very light visuals for reference. Intranasal 2C-B is another story. Definitely more than 2 times the potency of oral for me. In any case, if you are trying to repeat a similar combo, adjust your doses accordingly, since I might be more tolerant to the compounds than the average user. 1 hour and 20 minutes before the trip, I take 2 ginger capsules, which totaled to be about 1.1 grams of powdered ginger. I doubt it did much, and it wasn't necessary, since I don't find 2C-B to be particularly nauseating. T plus 0. I took a capsule of 3-MeO PCE at around 8:40 p.m. while I was playing Minecraft with a friend. I had a heavy meal maybe 3 hours ago at this point, so I wasn't exactly on an empty stomach. This might have impacted the absorption of the 2C-B later on. 40 minutes in, I take a capsule of 24 milligrams of 2C-B while I wait for the dissociative to kick in. 1 hour. Feeling the effects of the 3-MeO PCE starts to become present. Slight dizziness when turning my head, and my short-term memories started to get worse. I started playing Minecraft more enthusiastically and didn't have much trouble with it. 1 hour and 30 minutes. Fully feeling the 15 milligrams of 3-MeO PCE now. Maybe threshold effects from the 2C-B. Mostly a very slight body high, but no visuals. Stopped playing Minecraft and talked to my friend about drugs a little. We discussed the plan for taking 2CT2 in the future. I tried putting on some music to see if it was enhanced, and the only thing I found was that I could tell apart some of the layers, but it didn't really seem better than normal. 2 hours. Decided to retreat into proper solitude now, listening to Infected Mushroom while I waited for the 2C-B to properly kick in. No visuals whatsoever, but a nice body high, characteristic of 2C-B, which wasn't muted by the numbness of the dissociative. The body high wasn't very intense though, and it didn't seem to go along with the music like I expected. I was a bit underwhelmed. Mentally, I was still very composed. I could text perfectly fine, and my speech was only ever so slightly slurred. 3 hours. I somewhat impulsively measured out another 5 milligrams of 2C-B to snort. I only measured it in one pile, instead of what I would do normally for such tiny amounts, which is measure out 20, then split in half twice. No time for that now. I can't tell you how much it actually was, but it couldn't have been more than 10 milligrams. If I had to guess then, I would say 7 to 8. Snorted it all, a small sting, but nothing like the first time snorting it, when I did 24 milligrams. It made me sneeze a little, but saline nasal spray relieved this instantly after a good 10 minutes. The come-up was quick. I told my girlfriend what I had done, and she was upset due to the recklessness of it, which bothered me a bit in the beginning, but I quickly forgot about it once the journey started. We talked about it the next morning, and agreed that I should set stricter rules on redosing for myself, and pre-measure all of them if there's even the slightest possibility of me wanting to redose. This next timestamp encompasses the main part of the trip, and it lasted for about an hour. It is difficult to estimate how much time passed between and during each of these phases, but it couldn't have been much, even though it felt like a lot to me. 3 hours and 20 minutes. I laid back in my bed, turned off all my electronics, and put on an eye mask and earplugs, which I usually wear to sleep. Before I covered my eyes, I was overcome with the feeling that I was connecting with something ancient. I could see black lines crawling up on the walls around me, and I could picture myself in the mind's eye being enveloped by these black, corruption-looking lines. It felt as if I had awakened some sort of dark energy and it was possessing me, but it wasn't frightening in the slightest. I was proud to be the receiver of it. It felt like I was honoring my ancestors, some ancient civilization which definitely knew about this. They reminded me of the Aztecs, with some features of the old Egyptians. After this wave was over, I put on the eye mask and had some pretty dark imagery at first, but like I said before, it wasn't frightening at all. Conventionally, these would be called closed-eye visuals, but they weren't just that. They were a mixture of the visions, as I call them, that you get on dissociatives or high doses of pregbalin, which occurs in your mind's eye, and are more akin to a very vivid waking dream, and regular psychedelic CEVs which are in your field of vision when you close your eyes. It's difficult to put into words how this type of CEV differs from traditional psychedelic CEVs or dissociative visions. But after a while, it stopped mattering, as they became all-encompassing. The first thing I saw when I put on the eye mask was this cubical box from the inside, and there were a few fractal spirals, which I see a lot on 2C-B. There was also the feeling like there were jesters there, and I could see their faces very faintly in the corners of this box. I presume this box represented the inside of my mind. It eventually broke out into other fractal imagery, which was very gothic and pointy in style. I can't recall all of it, but one of the darkest images I remember was this meatscape, which was basically a fractal made out of meat and spikes, kind of gory looking, but again, not disturbing for some reason. The dark imagery eventually transitioned into natural imagery, and something really interesting happened at this point. I saw images of a forest, and could hear some buzzing from bees, and eventually saw a beehive on a tree. This tree became the center of focus, and eventually the buzzing became very loud, and I could feel it on my body. Eventually, I felt like I had become the tree and the beehive, very similar to a salvia experience, but without fully forgetting who I actually was. I got completely disconnected from my body, and the only thing reminiscent of a body in this state was the tree and beehive, even though it was projected in front of me rather than being with me. This image then multiplied towards the sides, as if there were multiple versions of this tree and beehive in several universes, and I was all of them for a few seconds. The buzzing became almost overwhelming, so I took off the eye mask as an escape from this vision. After taking off the eye mask, the ancient runic imagery returned. I am sure this is partly a result of me of playing Zelda TOTK recently, as the visual style of some of it was similar to the Zonai from that game. I once again felt like I was being possessed by some ancient energy, something associated with black magic and witchcraft, and then I was shown the inside of a cylindrical sort of scroll, an ancient-looking language I could not understand. There was so much text in there, and it felt important, so I could not help but think, I wish I could understand this constantly. I was shown the text for what felt like a while, probably a few minutes in reality. This is about all of what I recall of the main parts of the visions, before I checked the time again. About an hour had passed. 4 hours and 20 minutes. I messaged my girlfriend saying, "This has been a ride which I cannot even begin to describe," which is a little which is a little ironic, seeing as I am doing exactly that just now. But nonetheless, the message is the same. I will never do justice to the actual experience with my memories, let alone descriptions. I laid back down again and continued having these visions, but they were less intense and vivid than before. They weren't aggressive anymore. They lacked that sort of push. At some point, I remember seeing a long tunnel in some dungeon, and messaged my girlfriend saying that this would be amazing for D&D, since the imagery matches a lot of the themes in D&D, and the level of creativity in this state is unparalleled. Another thing I saw at this point was an image of me in my bed, which slowly zoomed out into the planet, galaxy, universe, and then folded the universe into itself and zoomed out further into a sort of self-fulfilling fractal, which, I presume, was the multiverse. The message that this particular vision had was that I should not worry about myself, as there is this absolutely massive totality out there, of which I am only a minuscule part of. Pretty cliche, but somewhat profound nonetheless. After that, I started having some pretty manic ideas regarding this specific combination. I felt as if I had discovered my very own dark elixir of power. I had a semi-delusional feeling of importance from having been the chosen one to receive the energy I had received, and thought that I am definitely repeating this combination. Out of all those thoughts, I only agree with the last one, now that I am fully sober. Once again, I am sure there was a lot more content here, but I cannot recall most of it. Externally, I was just tossing around in my bed. I also vividly remember one bathroom break, because I was peeing for what seemed like a comically long duration, all the while the toilet seat morphed in and out. 5 hours and 20 minutes. I decided I should go to sleep soon. It was about 2 a.m. I got up and took some melatonin and NAC, which would hopefully counteract the dissociation somewhat. This didn't do too much to make me tired, as there was still a good bit of 2C-B in my system, which was the main thing that would prevent me from sleeping. I was coming down quickly, but still had an hour or two to go before I could sleep. 7 hours. After tossing and turning with imagery of decaying intensity in my mind, I was finally able to get to sleep. I had vivid dreams, but I attribute this to the melatonin. I woke up at about 12 p.m. that day, after roughly 8 hours of sleep, and I still felt pretty tired. But all in all, I was in a pretty decent mood. Conclusion. This combination was initially underwhelming, but then went beyond any of my expectations. The perceived entity presence and feeling like I became the imagery that I was seeing in my mind was something I knew was possible on something like this, but that I did not expect at this level. I'm very satisfied and will be repeating this at some point, with a few adjustments. One thing I should emphasize, though, is that people should thread carefully and be cautious when it comes to combining dissociatives and psychedelics, and also with snorting 2C-B or any 2CX compound for that matter. TLDR, using ChatGPT because I'm lazy. This trip report describes the combination of 15 milligrams 3-MEO PCE, 24 milligrams 2C-B, and a smaller unknown dose of insufflated 2C-B. I took ginger capsules to mitigate potential nausea. The effects began with dizziness and impaired short-term memory. I experienced a mild body high and discussed drugs with a friend. After retreating into solitude, the visuals became more pronounced with Gothic and natural imagery. I felt a connection with ancient civilizations and had intense hallucinations, including visions of ancient languages. The visuals mostly subsided after about an hour. I messaged my girlfriend, had visions of a dungeon, and contemplated the vastness of the universe. I felt manic and had grandiose ideas about the combination. Eventually, I took melatonin and NAC to help sleep, experienced vivid dreams, and woke up feeling tired but in a decent mood. I concluded that the combination exceeded my expectations, and cautioned others to approach such combinations with caution. Alright, everyone. That is the end of our story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Share with us your 2CB experiences down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the other videos and playlists on my channel, and I will see you in the next one, fam. Deuces.